Everyone's been talking about Clawdbot or MoltBot being renamed over the last few days. I'm going to focus purely on development and how you can become indispensable in your organization, which you have to do at the moment. In the news this morning, I read that 1 in 5 people are worried about AI taking over their jobs in the next couple of years. For developers like us, whether you're an old fart like me or a graduate or generally sort of 35 to 45 are in a sweet spot. For the rest of the people, there was a report by Indeed, who are the largest recruitment website in this country, that said that the number of graduate IT jobs being advertised has dropped by 80% in the last 2 years. Just imagine if you're one of those grads, studied hard, come out with a top class degree and 50 grand to 100 grand of debt, and all the jobs you were promised when you started your course have just disappeared. I know developers my age who are taking early retirement and who are taking redundancy, burying their heads in the sand, and it's not necessary. If you use AI right, it will learn from its mistakes, will learn and codify those, and it will prevent those, and it will just keep going round and round in a loop and just get better and better. Clawdbot or MoltBot now finally made that possible. Then you will become indispensable in your job, and you will become, if you're an indie developer, you'll get more business, you'll be able to manage multiple streams of code, and all of it will come out as high quality, easily maintainable, no code debt, and your future will be bright. Okay, so I started using AI code tools a year and a half ago or so. I can't remember exactly, but started with Lovable, Bolt. Then when Claude Code came out, started using Claude Code with Opus 3.7, was it? Got some great results, but only to a certain stage. I ended up with about 3 Claude Max or Claude Pro, whichever it is, accounts, the £200 here, $200 a month. And I'd hit that 5-hour window and sometimes I'd hit that early, just hit my token usage and have to use the /login command, authenticate in one of my other accounts until that run out. That wasn't the main problem. The main problem was that Claude Code would just make these stupid mistakes that you could see, and it wouldn't learn from it. And I was doing all the right things. I was packing, clearing. As the context window fills up, the quality of the output goes down. I'm sure you've all seen those types of videos or read the studies or whatever. And it's good to a certain extent. The old 80-20 rule, the finishing it off was taking more of my time than actually developing 80% of the code. And a lot of my sort of side hustle projects I just canned over the course of last year. And now using MoltBot to act as an orchestrator to the engineering process, it can just automatically pick those up. And I'll show you a project that I've done exactly that on. If you stay to the end of this video, you will fully understand that process and be able to start using it today. So what has MoltBot actually changed? I really thank Peter Steinberger and his team for taken a radical approach to it in terms of solving this problem that coding agents have, mostly memory and mostly context. So they've obviously done that by having this central memory.md file and a daily log, and also a MySQL vector storage. And you can tell it really simply. You can create SOPs that it follows. You can create processes that it follows. The icing on the cake is it's really easy to spin up a cron job, checks what the agents are doing every couple of minutes, and it self-heals when they've had the same problem each time. It recognizes that and it heals them and pushes them forwards. So key to this is, as always, you put shit in, you get shit out. So the skill is in eliciting the requirements from the project stakeholders, the the product owner, the users, creating what we used to call a spec, but is now a PRD file, and then using something like the BMAD method to shard that out into epics and user stories. Works really well, especially since, I don't know, a few weeks ago, version 6 of the BMAD method came out. Hats off to those guys as well. I wish I had time to help contribute to these projects, and hopefully the way I'm about to show you using MoltBot will give me that time. So I'll show you. Okay, right. So what I tried to do last year was I created this 4-step engineering process where I think it was about when the Claude Code Agent SDK came out. It hadn't gone into this stupid grey matter that I've got, that you could spin up a coding agent with a narrow set of goals with guardrails, and you could spin it up, do its job, kill it, take what it's done, pass it to the next coding agent. Doing that means that it doesn't bloat full of context. You can still do it with your Claude subscription, so you don't have to rack up massive API costs. And the goal was that I could just give it these epics and user stories and say, just work through those, test them, fix any bugs, move on to the next user story. And I could just go down the pub and have a few pints with my mates, come back, and I've done a week's work while I've been drinking. Fantastic. Did it ever work? No. You'd come back and you'd see that the coding agent had just hit some stupid problem that to a human was so obvious, but these coding agents, they're stupid. They're far better. If you're still writing code, then you're wasting your time. You need to be, or wasting your company's time, because coding agents understand the code better than you do, faster than you do, and write code faster than you do. So your role needs to be elevated to a lead developer or a program manager, and you need to be driving engineering workflow process. I'll go over how that works with you. So I had this stupid 4-step, and I was using Claude skills / commands, not triggers, what do they call them in Claude? Hooks, so that after each phase, it would look at what's happened. I'm trying to improve my code, but never really achieving that goal of an unattended closed loop agent that could fix itself, self-heal as it goes. It wasn't until, I don't know, probably about October, November or so, that I came across this YouTube channel called IndyDevDan. And this guy has really taken an effort. I think it was about $500 or $600 for his course. Well worth it. I think it turned my 4-stage engineering workflow into 7, and I've now increased that to 9, courtesy of Clawdbot or MoltBot. Oh, I can't wait till we just start calling it MoltBot and move on. Now, the way that works is, as I said, the skill is always getting the requirements right, breaking those down into epics and stories, and then orchestrating the development of those in a way that means as you add each feature to the code base, it becomes easier and easier to add features, because the coding agents get cleverer and learn from their mistakes. And I'll tell you why. So there's 9 phases. The orchestrator manages these, and what MoltBot has done is it's added a layer on top of that with memory management and with cron jobs that follow SOPs, that if it sees any of these phases getting into trouble, it stops them, rewrites the SOPs, rewrites the orchestrator, gives new commands to each of these coding agents as they spin up. Don't forget, these spin up and then disappear when they're not needed anymore. So they're specialist, narrow-focused agents with a big loop that keeps its memory in MoltBot. So the 9 phases: generate a spec. So the orchestrator knows what the next story that's got to be worked on is. So we then use Claude, normally Opus, because it's better thinking, and the memory of MoltBot to generate a spec for that one user story. And you think about what happens in a Claude code session is that you say, execute this user story. It goes off and thinks about it, reads it, understands it, then it looks at all the code base, then it starts working on it, by which time it's probably run out of context. So it compacts, then it starts working on it again. Quite a slow process, but the quality of the code that it spits out after that gets worse and worse, and it just keeps doing the same errors. Now, I've developed this framework to work with Brownfield and Greenfield, but if you're just developing a new, if you're saying, here's the screen now, I want it to look like this, or there's this problem here, so it takes a screenshot of the problem so it can use that in the test phase later. Then the next Claude code, and I usually use the Sonnet model for this. Oh, and by the way, again, because we're now working in MoltBot, we can use different coding agents, cheaper or even free ones, or if you've got the money to buy the hardware, like that thing, the beast, running LLMs locally, and get those to do the coding work, because we've got an engineering framework. Swapping out the coding agent is really easy. I haven't perfected that yet. All of this will be in a public repo that anyone can download. It's not quite there yet, but so please follow and like and comment. And I want to, maybe this is my way of giving back to the community and helping people who are staring down the barrel of a gun, fellow developers, whether you're old or young, whether you've just started vibe coding. I tell you what, if you've just started vibe coding, you don't even fully have to understand all the engineering that you would have learnt at university, but you're going to be far more employable or far more able to work on your own projects if you do understand this. It's all very well using Lovable or Bolt to pump out the proof of concept, and it's very good at that, but pumping out enterprise grade code, no. So I am waffling quite a lot. I meant this to be really fast. Sorry about that. I'm just so passionate about it. So then the coding agent goes off and writes the code. Then we run a very simple test, and this, oh my word, this is just checks for the TypeScript, the linting, and runs a simulated build just to check that it works. If not, it loops around and does that again. Then the next stage is to write the end-to-end tests or the unit tests, and then run those tests, and then do a final review, which not only looks at the screenshots, but also, all the normal testing, checks for inputs and outputs, basically. And then if it passes the final review, it commits it. This can be expanded to work in multi-developer environments with PRs, and obviously. But what's good here is there's a persistence of everything that's happened. The idea is we want to remove the human in the loop to have to fix these errors all the time, or if it is something that the AI really can't work out, then fine, elevate it to you as the operator. So the key features, it's a 9-phase pipeline: spec, implement, verify, test, and commit. providing each of those goes through. I've implemented this using / commands, do a simple type check and build test, final validation using Playwright. But here's where it gets really good. This is the self-healing part of it. So if the test fails, then what it does is we've got the ID of the user story in terms of the files that it creates. And it knows what phase failed. And it basically gives the knowledge of the errors. It goes back to phase 1 spec writing, tells it failed because of these errors, and the implementation then knows what the errors were as well. Then it goes back through the verify and test. And hopefully, most of the time, it gets it right. When it gets it wrong, then the idea is that it's only a second touch and it will fix it. But I let it iterate 10 times through, and it rarely. Now that I've perfected it thanks to MoltBot, it doesn't very often get to that stage. So we retry it. What most of these are really stupid environmental things, because the coding agent doesn't have a full context window. It codes nicely, but then tries to invoke whatever library and can't. And it's just, it's so frustrating. So it uses the persistent memory that MoltBot gives it. Context awareness, when you retry, when something fails, when it retries, it knows what went wrong with the previous attempt. So you end up with an incremental improvement. So the Claude execution learns from the mistakes. Those mistakes get written back into the MoltBot memory, and there's a deterministic recovery, so no random failures slip through. And here's the real kicker that I'd never even thought of. I'm so pleased with this. And this is ridiculous. So this was before last night. So when I finished at about 10 o'clock last night, I'd gone off, left it running, thought I'd wake up in the morning and this feature would be developed. Unfortunately, I was lying there in bed at 3:30, woke up, looked at it. Why didn't it restart? All it needed to do was restart. It just hung. So then I created a better self-healing watchdog, which checks if the Agentic developer workflow is still running, checks if it's making progress, checks if it's down or stalled, checks for the max attempts being reached. And then the outer main loop can restart from wherever it got to. So it'll kill it and it'll just naturally go, I'm on user story 23. So we never hit more than 2 minutes of downtime. That time when I would have been at the pub, well, hopefully I will be. Goes through, looks at the crashes. So I've generated this documentation from a live run. So now the SOP standard operating procedure, if you're not clear. Auto restart on failure, progress detection, cooldown, just to see if it is actually doing something but has stopped outputting to the stood out. This hasn't happened for a while, so it's looking good. Then the anti-patterns, what not to do. Monitor only. Rely on false positives. Spam the same problem. No escalation. So how does it do it? We've got the project root here, and that will be whatever you're coding in, whatever language. Then there's an ADW framework. Main.py, it's a bit of a beast, 3,500 lines, state management, error handling, retry logic, spawning new coding agents. Claude at the moment, but I'm working on adding the comments if you'd like to see it work with other cheaper models. I think the next one for me is to get it working with the Gemini CLI, because that's free, and it also has the same / commands and skills, etc. that Claude does. Self-healing script, and then we get different markdown files written for whether it's version 1, version 2. You can see the errors. So it's all available at each phase. And what this allows us to do, like with any engineering process, is to improve the process. So it's bizarre when I started trying to think about how to implement this in Claude Code. I'd say, right, act as the orchestrator. Don't fix any coding problems. Just if there's a problem, fix the agentic workflow and then kick it off again. And of course, Claude Code would be overseeing it and say, oh, there's a bug in the code. Oh, master, I'm your precious. I'm going to fix the code. And it'll just forget that it's supposed to be orchestrating it, and it'll be clashing with the agent that it has spawned. Anyway, that's just a thing of the past now. It's going to be a beautiful coding future. I think you get the idea now. This is wrong. It doesn't use an API key. I'd rather have a subscription and know what the usage is than just have a, you know, you could churn through $1,000 in a night on the API key. So the knowledge flow gets written back to the specs, implementation, log files, errors, monitoring flow, cron every 2 minutes, a watchdog that self-heals, directories. And so what this does is it takes you from being a vibe coder or just someone who just sits in front of the coding agent and says, fix this problem, develop this new feature. You've got a written spec persisted to disk. You've got automated validation, automated tests. Yeah, I know end-to-end testing's been around a while, but there's a little kicker, which you'll see in a second, which makes this so much better. The engineering principles, specs of truth, automated validation. And here's the bit that really kicks as well. I use a GPT-4o endpoint to look at all of the screenshots that are taken. So it takes that end-to-end testing to another level. Which is just magic. So whereas a normal end-to-end test that just looks for DOM elements and fills stuff in, it can still get false positives, but the visual validation that the AI screenshot does is just magic. Failure recovery. So we're keeping logs so we can see just how effective our engineering process is. Reproducibility first. That was the bit that takes the screenshots first. Same input, same output. Deterministic pipeline. We know we're going to get good stuff out of it. And this is the goal, to be able to process 100 plus stories unattended while I'm down the pub. Self-healing operations, automatic crash recovery. I think you get it. So I took a project I was working on ages ago. I think I stopped working on it in 2018, 2019. I just got it, the code. Well, I didn't write the code. I just wrote the spec based on, this is when I was doing a load of affiliate marketing. And I moved from using native advertising to YouTube advertising. And I wanted that there was a way that you could run ads in front of other popular videos. And anyway, I won't go into too much detail about that. 5 codings for prototypes, engineerings for production. The ADW engineering process brings discipline to AI development, which is great because that means that then you can have this process, and like I say, you can swap out whatever coding agent you want to use. It all lives in SOPs. I'm going to do other videos after this and probably go into this in a deep dive, and as I say, publish this repository. This is great. I mean, this is what's so great. Test, fails, learns, retry, succeed. Bosh. Engineering rigor. Observable and debuggable. Self-healing. Self-healing. Oh my God. So I'll just do a quick look at the SOP. In fact, I've already spent far longer on this than I wanted to. I wanted to actually show you it, how it worked last night and how it went from failing when I got that self-healing bit working, how it's been doing today. I think I'll do that in another video. But please comment which bits you're sort of more interested in, because one of the things I intend to do with this as well is vastly improve the writing of the epics and user stories using MoltBot, because the ones that come out of the BMAB method, they're great, but I want them to be specific to work with this new ADW process. And one of the ways that I've been finding, the workflow that I've been finding really good, is with the PRD. I write it first from either, whether it's my own project or with the clients. My skill is being able to get the right requirements out of people. Same way that Henry Ford said if he'd have asked people what they wanted, they'd have said faster horses. And again, it goes back to the Abraham Lincoln way of thinking, which is, he said something along the line, I'm paraphrasing now, but if I had 8 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend 6 hours sharpening the axe. Put all the work in up front, and then what I do is I'll use probably Claude Opus to do my first draft of it, and then I'll run that through Codex, and then I'll run that through Gemini, and then I'll get Claude to look at what those results are, and if need be, I've got to eyeball it. The trouble with working with AI is it can spit out 30 pages of documentation. But what I want to do is use the memory, the cron job, that's available in MoltBot to improve this process. So that is always, as I said before, shit in, shit out. You put good stuff in, the chances of getting good stuff out are so much better. This is good. Yeah, I think I've taken too long now. So let me know in the comments what you're more interested in seeing, whether it's the spec writing, cheaper coding agents, or just how the self-healing works. And I want to be part of this community. I want to give back, and I want to help other developers who are staring down the barrel of a gun at the moment. Thank you for watching.